Hey guys, what is going on? It is me, BikuriBox12 here, and welcome back to another Realm of the Mad God character guide video. I'm gonna try and knock the rest of these out pretty quickly, so let's just jump right into it. Today we're looking at what most consider the definitive class of Realm of the Mad God, the Wizard. There's a very good reason why it's the first class you start out with. It's very beginner friendly and incredibly versatile. Our stats upon being fully maxed are 670 health, 385 mana, 75 attack, 50 speed, 40 vitality, 25 defense, 75 dexterity, and 60 wisdom. Alright, pretty average stats across the board, 50 speed, 40 vitality, 25 defense, very generic. 60 wisdom is right smack dab in the middle. If we had any more, the ability would be a little too broken, and if we had any less, we wouldn't be able to activate the ability quite enough. The two stats that you should draw your attention to are the 75 attack and dexterity. This immediately clues you in that this is a very high damage class. You're gonna need about 30 pots for both attack and dexterity to max from level 20, but it is very worth it. The Wizard's weapon of choice is the Staff, which has a whopping 8.6 range and has 2 shots. If we take a look at the tier 12 Staff of the Cosmic Whole, we're doing roughly 80 damage per shot. Combine that with our 75 attack, that's about 150 damage per shot. Put both shots together, about 300. Combine that with our incredibly high dexterity, which totals up to roughly 25 to 2600 damage. That is nuts. This of course only applies if you're hitting every shot and if the enemy has 0 defense. But even as the defense scales up, that's still a ton of damage. Plus you have the safe range of 8.6. It almost seems too good to be true. Well, let me tell you something, it gets even better with the ability, but until then there are a couple of other staffs to talk about. Most commonly is the Staff of Extreme Prejudice from the Sprite world. A nifty little item, it's not crazy good, but it is nice. You essentially become a goblin mage with some of the highest DPS with 10 shots, but you have to practically sit on every enemy if you want to get your damage in. It works on chests and bosses if they're stunned, but if you don't have one, don't sweat it, because even if you did, you would rarely use it. You have the Sentient Staff that drops from the Forgotten King. It has the same average damage as a Cosmic Whole, but has a different damage threshold, as well as a different amplitude, so the shots are a lot wider, and it gives you some stat buffs, which are kind of cool actually, but not crazy different. It's not the definitive staff, but it's not bad. Just has a little bit less range. The Staff of Esben drops from the Ice Cave, and I actually talked about it in that guide video. It's kind of a funky item. It has a lot lower damage than Cosmic Whole, but it does have a wave-like pattern, so you can go around walls, and it pierces through enemies, so that's pretty cool. The Phylactery drops from a Phylactery Bearer at a buffed Lich, has a good deal less range than a normal staff, but on higher defense enemies, it actually has better damage than Cosmic Whole. Not by much though, so you're really not missing out. The Anatis Staff is just a goofy vanity, and the Staff of the Crystal Serpent can be very useful early game whenever you don't have anything past a tier 8. The higher rate of fire actually does give you some decent DPS, and it looks pretty cool, I'll give it that. Overall though guys, the UT staffs are all situational at best. Not only is Cosmic Whole better than most of them in general, but it's also way easier to get. And if you don't feel like paying for a wine cellar top, just get the tier 11. It's almost the same thing. Now for the Wizard's ability, the spell. Let me put it to you this way. It's damage. That is the purpose of the Wizard spell, to deal damage. There's no effect, there's no team-oriented strategy to it, it's just a freaking explosion on enemy territory. Here's how it works. Tier 6 Elemental Detonation spell, or Elidet for short. You point your cursor at a location, hit spacebar to consume your mana, and concentrated magic of 20 shots, dealing an average damage of about 122, will come out from the center of the tile that you're aiming at, because Realm is made up of squares and tiles, and will fly out kind of like a ranged EP. Now, if all your shots manage to hit, that can be an average total damage of 2,450. So we're looking at about the same thing as a full second of staff damage with the push of a button. Now you can see why the Wizard is a powerhouse. To be fair though, this is where a big skill factor for the Wizard comes in. You have to time what we like to call a perfect spell bomb. By aiming at the base of a character right around the feet, I think practicing on the unawakened tomb bosses would be worth your time, and all 20 of your shots will hit, giving you maximum damage. And the great part is, while you're practicing on a stationary enemy, you can adjust yourself accordingly to get a feel for it. And pretty soon you'll be able to train your eye to do this in the heat of battle. If you're playing with sounds on, you'll hear all of your shots stack and be really loud. It's a good feeling though. You also get 2 vitality and 2 wisdom as per a lot of tier 6 abilities. Now there are 2 other spells that you might be interested in. First up is the Tablet of the King's Avatar. Pretty cool looking ability, I'll say that much. Same amount of shots, but almost twice the MP cost at 155, and slightly lower total DPS at about 2100, but it does give you 40 mana and 4 wisdom to compensate for the large mana cost, all for the ability to pierce through enemies. Here's the problem with that though. Piercing through enemies is practically synonymous with clearing. The spell is not something that I would use to clear. We already have almost double the mana cost, and the damage is lower, meaning it's not as effective on bosses, on top of the fact that I could use twice as many Elidets on a boss, all for the ability to clear slightly faster, and I don't even know if that's true. Spamming Elidet or tier 5 Nova shots might equate to the same thing as using a tablet. Even the feed isn't that high, which is weird considering how rare it is. I know I complained about the Kageboshi Ninja Star not being that great because it sacrifices damage for being able to pierce, but in that item's defense, you have to throw it from your body and hit the boss, so there is an opportunity to collide with minions. With a spell, you can aim directly on top of a boss and bypass every minion, meaning that the piercing effect is exclusively used for clearing, which we might not even need because the wizard is already so good at clearing because of his high damage. I don't know, this is just me. On the flip side, we've got the ancient spell Pierce. The damage may look like a lot less than Elidet, but on top of giving you 10 health, 5 mana, 3 attack, and 2 defense, it also ignores the defense of enemies, meaning it's doing the same damage on everything, making it your spell of choice at higher defense enemies. Making this a pretty dang good spell, but it does drop from the Twilight Archmage, so good luck. Now for robes. And like last time, G-Sork. Robe of the Grand Sorcerer, you can't go wrong. The difference between all of the robes is so minuscule, it really doesn't affect your playstyle. Just pick a robe that gives you enough mana, defense, and some attack, and you're all good. Mad Scientist, it's whatever. It's a little different, but it's basically the same thing, only it's way harder to get, so tiered robes it is. Water Dragon Silk Robe is admittedly a lot better now, with a pretty nice attack buff, but even then I would still go for G-Sork just for the balance. And then we have rings, which are even more open-ended. This is where it comes down to what kind of wizard you want. I slap a pyramid ring on almost every class I have, because giving the wizard more attack is great, needs a little bit of a defense buff, and health is always good, but giving the wizard more mana is never a bad idea because of how strong its ability is. Do you want to have a wizard that's stronger or faster or safer? These are the questions you have to ask yourself, and that is what will dictate what ring you have. I personally think going with an HP ring is never a bad idea, because it helps you live. That's safe. And in a game about permadeath, being safe is never a bad idea. So with outstanding DPS and great range to boot, this is one of the best, if not the greatest, starting class for a new Realm of the Mad God player. Very easy to pick up and play, and even whenever you're a veteran player, you're still gonna find yourself using it because it's that useful. It's great for getting loot, it's fun to play. It feels good nailing those perfect spell bombs. The only thing that the wizard is not good at is being a tank. It is very squishy. It takes a lot of damage, and rightfully so. If it had high damage, range, and was a tank, there would be no reason to play anything else. So how do you play the wizard? Freaking, you just move around and shoot. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It's definitely in my top 5 favorite characters. He's just too good not to like. So I hope this guide helped you with understanding the class better and led you in the right direction. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, don't forget to check out the next episode whenever I post it, which will probably be soon. Alright, see ya.